millions of people have been forced to evacuate their homes as a result of Russia's unwarranted and unjustifiable action against Ukraine, which has resulted in massive human fatalities. The global food market has also been significantly and permanently impacted by the war. In today's video, we are going to show you how this war impacted the global food crisis. Leading grain exporter Ukraine has experienced a sharp decline in exports, raising serious questions about global food security for millions of people. The newest UN and EU initiatives have increased exports and somewhat lowered food prices. However, the outlook is still bleak and food costs are significantly higher than in 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic, climate change shocks, and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine are all contributing to a growing global food crisis that is being exacerbated by rising food, fuel, and fertilizer prices. Unless immediate action is taken to respond jointly and broadly, millions of people worldwide face the threat of starvation. WFP's annual operational needs are at an all-time high of $22.2 billion due to the unprecedented overlap of crises, with verified contributions totaling $4.8 billion thus far. WFP is urging concerted effort to deal with this situation. Global food and energy concerns are being caused by the conflict in Ukraine. The effects of the conflict are being felt worldwide, which implies that everyone is feeling the effects as well. 90% of the wheat consumed in Armenia, Azerbaijan, Eritrea, Georgia, Mongolia, and Somalia comes from Russia and Ukraine, two key suppliers of staple foods. The World Food Programme, which offers food assistance to 115.5 million people in more than 120 countries, also sources a significant amount of its wheat from Ukraine. Russia is also one of the top 3 producers of crude oil in the world, as well as the world's second and top exporter of natural gas. These necessary goods are getting harder to find as the war messes with export and production procedures. The availability of oil and gas has significantly decreased worldwide. Russia and Ukraine continue to produce the majority of the world's wheat, corn, and barley. Even more of the world's supply of fertilizer, which is especially important for agriculture in nations with depleted soils, remains in Russia and Belarus. Some respite is anticipated from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which has permitted Ukrainian grain shipments to restart as of August 1. Nevertheless, these shortages are causing price increases that set records. Since 2022 began, the price of food has increased by 50%. Prices for crude oil, which are currently up 33%, are anticipated to surpass 50% by the end of the year. Since the beginning of the war, the price of fuel for transportation, one of the main factors driving inflation in Africa in 2021, has gone up much more. The effects of the global cost of living problem, which is being exacerbated by rising prices, are being felt disproportionately in emerging nations. Communities have been severely impacted across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East, with already vulnerable households bearing the brunt of the damage. Rethinking the world's food and energy systems is, past due. The effects of the conflict in Ukraine and related crises are exposing critical flaws in the world's food and energy systems. Prior to the start of the war, there was a spike in food insecurity, with 44 million people reportedly on the verge of hunger as a result of COVID-19, climate change, and violence. In 2022, 345 million people worldwide, or over 200 million more than there were prior to the pandemic, will either be acutely food insecure or at high danger of becoming so. Energy poverty is still widespread, and COVID-19 undid a lot of previous progress. 733 million people did not have access to electricity as of 2020. 3.2 premature deaths per year, especially among women and children, are caused by household air pollution, which is caused by the fact that 2.4 billion people lack access to clean cooking. Additionally, about 1 billion people are serviced by healthcare facilities that lack stable energy, which puts the quality of medical care at risk from price increases and service interruptions. The United Nations World Food Programme estimates that more than 345 million people are suffering from or at risk of acute food insecurity, more than double the number from 2019. We're dealing now with a massive food insecurity crisis, Antony J. Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, said last month at a summit with African leaders in Washington. It's the product of a lot of things, as we all know, he said, including Russia's aggression against Ukraine. By attacking Ukraine, the breadbasket of the world, Putin is attacking the world's poor, spiking global hunger when people are already on the brink of famine, said Samantha Power, the administrator of the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID. Russian military officers allegedly targeted grain storage facilities in Ukraine on purpose, perhaps committing a war crime, and also damaged wheat processing facilities. The infrastructure that processed and transported wheat and sunflower oil to overseas markets has collapsed as a result of the war in Ukraine and the exodus of many farmers from their homes. 40 of the 350 workers at a farm 190 kilometers south of Kiev have enrolled in the military. The farm is also having trouble with other shortages. The factory that produces nitrogen fertilizer for his farm and others has been shut down, according to the Dutch co-owner Kees Inga, as a result of Russian strikes on the electricity infrastructure. We hope that this will change soon, so that the Ukrainian ports can operate again at higher capacity, she said. Ukrainian exports remain a vital element in combating global food insecurity. A critical step toward achieving gender equality on a worldwide scale is the adoption of sustainable alternatives to fossil fuel-based energy in agriculture. It will support the reduction of air pollution-related fatalities, gender gaps in food and energy security, unpaid caregiving, and household workloads. Additionally, it will result in more environmentally friendly jobs for women and maybe higher productivity in women's small-scale farming. Significant resources are required to effect this kind of systemic transformation. The abolition of fossil fuel subsidies, which the world currently spends $423 billion a year on, as well as windfall taxes on oil and gas firms, can help redirect funding away from the fossil fuel industry and toward the development of alternative gender-responsive, sustainable systems.